Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Ashwin. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our closing keynote. And to deliver closing remarks, we're pleased to introduce Mr. Lane Robinson. Just a brief bio of Mr. Lane Robinson. He's a globally recognized social policy strategist, a speaker and founder of people-centered strategies. Over the past 2 decades, he has worked across 56 countries at the intersection of public policy, leadership, youth development, and innovation, including more than 17 years with the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. He is perhaps best known for leading the development of the world's first global youth development index and for his work exploring how systems, policy, and emerging technologies can drive meaningful social change. Ladies and gentlemen, for our closing keynote, please welcome Lane Robinson to the stage. Lane, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. You can hear me clearly? Let me thank QS for this wonderful invitation to present this keynote at this wonderful forum that we've had over the last 2 days. I think in my last major speech, I spoke about what makes good systems fail. And so I thought about something different, a bit more positive as we come to the end, about what makes systems succeed? So I'm flipping my original position for this closing keynote. What makes systems succeed? When I became a father, I did what most people would do when they have a new baby. I bought all the books, I learned all the songs, I taught my child how to use building blocks, and then I started teaching him nursery rhymes. And then one afternoon, we came to a perhaps most famous of all nursery rhymes, Humpty Dumpty. You may have heard it. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. But all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. And as I was telling him the nursery rhyme, I was listening to myself tell him the nursery rhyme, and I had heard this nursery rhyme hundreds of times as a child, but never as a father. And so as I heard myself tell him the nursery rhyme, I said to myself, what on earth am I telling my young child about this world? Am I telling him and teaching him that when things fall apart, they don't come back together again? Am I inadvertently teaching him that the greatest and the best institutions, the greatest and the best leaders, the greatest and the best people with resources are sometimes unable to make things work well? I don't think that was what the nursery rhyme intended, but that was what was going on in my mind as I stopped and I thought about it. But you see, as adults, well, as children, you learn these little stories when you're little, when you're 5 years old. But when you become 50 years old, well, these stories become the metaphors that define your life. You go and you open your papers in the morning and you watch the television screens and you see not nursery rhymes, but now headlines. Oh, politics is broken. The education system is broken. Youth are broken. Oh, the climate is broken. And you realize that those stories you heard when you were 5 now are the metaphors that define your life at age 50. But then something came to me. You know, those stories about the climate and the politics and the education are real things. They're real challenges, of course. You know, let me tell you, people are suffering, and we must never minimize what's happening with climate, with education, with our youth. But at the same time, if the only lens we have of the only way we see the world is through these crises, then perhaps we're missing something significant and very important. What are we missing? Possibility. Possibility. As I walked around this space and I listened to you, nowhere is it clearer in my mind than when I sat here over these last 2 days, possibility. And I saw a sign out there that says, discover what is possible. Possibility. You could spend all the time focusing on what is broken, or you can focus on what is possible. And we have heard that in this room, in this place, in this continent, by 2050, Africa will have a quarter of the world's working population. That's possibility. And sitting in this room, each one of you, looking at me as I speak to you, you are responsible for just a little part of making that possibility come true. You carry from this room that little act of making this nation, this continent, this place become greater than what it is in the future. As I listened to you over the last 2 days, contemplating and exploring the vast contours of this discussion around higher education, I realized that you were asking the questions that I have asked myself for 2 decades. How do you build an education system? How do you build systems that, on the one hand, takes care of the people today, while at the same time making and preparing for the generations of the future? This troubled me for 2 decades as I worked across the world, working in countries with governments in every part of the world. I was wondering, how do I, at the same time, work to preserve and strengthen what we have now, but at the same time make preparations for the future? And then it hit me. It came to me like a bull in a china shop. Perhaps the world is not broken, as we presume, or as we have been told through the media. Perhaps it isn't broken. Perhaps the world is just unfinished. You see, if the world is broken as we are told and taught, then your role becomes repairing what remains. But if the world is unfinished, it means you have in your hands the power to build what comes next. Are you repairing what is broken? Or are you someone who's going to leave this room prepared to build what comes next? Your role changes. I've always thought that my job, when I worked through health, education, youth, and sport, was to solve problems. You know, my job as a systems thinker was to solve problems, and if I could only solve problems, then that would make the difference. And I realized after listening to many people talk and traveling all across the world, I was completely wrong. Great systems aren't there to solve problems. They're really there to change how people see the world. If you could get people to see the world differently, then a whole lot is going to change in your life. A whole lot is going to change in your institutions. If you could change how people see. You know, we know that education systems are supposed to teach our children. They educate our children. Our health systems make our people healthier. Our governments are supposed to provide services. We know how it works. Our businesses are supposed to provide services and goods. We know it very well. But perhaps that's not the real function of our systems. Our systems, at the very heart, at the very core of these systems, is a simple idea. Systems are there to define how we see others, how we see people. Let me show you. You know, your education system or schools are there to teach our children. But isn't teaching just another way of defining what we define as intelligence? Our systems are there to show us how we see people. Our governments make policies, yes they do, but isn't policy making just another way of giving voice to those who have the loudest say? Our systems are at their very core the way we see people. And so today, the question that I want you to think about as you leave from this beautiful forum: how is your education system, how is your university, how is your higher education system in your country trained to see? Put it another way, what are you blind to in your university? What are you not seeing? Several years ago, I went into a school, and I was told as I went into the school that there was this particular very well-known student. He was well-known not because of anything he had done necessarily. He was well-known because his father was the local gang leader, the local drug dealer. So everybody knew this child. The teachers stood away from him. The other students knew how to be cautious around him. I didn't know any of this. So as I went and I did what I had always done when I met young people all over the world, I said to him, as I said to all of them, what is it that excites you? What it is that gives you passion? And then he was quite surprised. He looked at me and then he smiled and he said to me, music. I said, music? Have you ever written any music? And he said, no. Just that, nothing else. What I did afterwards was we got musicians, a few songwriters, a makeshift studio, and we set up right in the school. And before you know it, that same boy who everybody saw as the gang leader's son was writing beautiful music. So beautiful, in fact, it got played on the local radio station. And a little bit after that, guess what? He was on the television as a ray of hope. People said, wow, what a transformation. I said, nah, we didn't do anything. What simply happened was the talent that was already in this young man became visible because we asked a different set of questions. See, when you ask the right questions, it makes something that is invisible visible. And when you ask the right questions, what is visible also becomes possible. So I ask you again, what are your universities not seeing? What are your universities blind to? So I've come today to share with you just 3 ideas that I hope you will take with you as you leave this room today. Just 3 things. I'm going to ask you to indulge me. Take out your pens or your devices, and you're going to help me write this down. These 3 things, I think, perhaps are the way we can say that systems succeed. 3, just 3. Are you ready? Write down on your paper or on your devices, do you see? Do you see? S-E-E. Do you see? S-E-E. Do you see? You see, S, for me, in my life and in my journey, has come to mean, do you see potential everywhere you go? You see, great systems see potential. They don't see problems or deficits or risk. They see potential everywhere. Good people, good leaders, good vice chancellors see potential. Do you see? Potential is everywhere. Sometimes we don't see it because we're focused on the risk registers, we're focused on the targets, we're focusing on the compliance, we're focusing on all the things that could go wrong. We do not see the potential. And sometimes, to be fair, you're not even seeing the potential in your own institutions. And you're saying, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have enough resources, I don't have enough teachers. That's why we can't go higher up on the ranking, you say. You're not seeing the potential. So S, see potential. E, expand opportunities. Write it down. E, expand opportunities. Good systems do something very special. They grow people. They create enough opportunities for people to grow. You know, I've learned that opportunities are everywhere. I'll tell you another time, the sky is falling with opportunities, says Chicken Little. Opportunities are everywhere. But sometimes, again, we don't see. So S, see potential. This first E is expand opportunities. Opportunities are everywhere. Good systems help people to grow. And then the last E, enable connections. What did I say? Enable connections. We are living in a world of silos. Oh, you have a silo over here, a silo over there, a department over there. Imagine, if you will, a great big 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. And you give the group over here all the colored pieces, the green pieces. And you give the group here all the edges, and the group here all the people, and the group over there all the round edges. And you say to them, go work hard. And each one becomes an expert of, okay, fixing corners, or putting people together, or looking at the green bits or the blue bits. But actually, they have not seen the whole picture. Good systems help people not just to become experts in their small little area, their silos. They create connections that allow people to see the big picture. So as I conclude today, I say to you as I say to myself, do you see? When you go to your office on Monday morning, say to them, do you see? See potential. Expand opportunities. Enable connections. These 3 make good systems succeed. So you'll leave here in a little while. We'll take off our name tags and we'll put them aside. The forum is coming to an end. The panels are all done, all the speaking is done. The final speaker will come, and you will get on a plane with all those business cards in your pockets, and you will go and you'll sit at your desk on Monday morning or in your boardroom on Monday morning. And all the problems will be coming back on your desk, and I'm going to challenge you to say to them, I'm going to choose not to focus on the problems. I'm going to choose to ask a different set of questions. I'm going to choose to see. Can I challenge you to choose to see today? Can I challenge you to see today? I'm not hearing you. Can I challenge you to see today? See potential. Expand opportunities. Enable connections. As I conclude, the great future is ahead of this continent. Great future is ahead of your institutions. But I think you need to begin with asking the right questions and seeing things differently. And then perhaps by changing the question, you will change what becomes visible. When you change what becomes visible, you will change what becomes possible. And then, and only then, the great systems that you have created in your universities will make the difference we want to see in the world. So begin not by asking about what is broken, begin by asking about what I am not seeing. What am I failing to see? Because every great future begins when someone chooses to recognize, not what everybody else has overlooked. They're focused on what is possible. I think these things make good systems succeed. Do you think so? I think so. So can I challenge you as I end to think that the world is not broken as some presume? No, it's not. It is unfinished. And if it is unfinished, go build the next chapter. Thank you.
Our sincere thanks to Mr. Robinson for that insightful closing keynote. Thank you for ending this session on such a hopeful note. It is that hope for a brighter future that brings us together today.